And here we are looking at it. So this these, I gotta use my pointer on this other one. You can see my little marker here. This curvy line, when it goes between two notes that are on the same space or line, are called a tie. And what they do is take the two note values together and add them to each other. And a tie can happen within a measure. So when I'm playing this, I would not sing, I want the F sharp. Da, 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 ba. I wouldn't do that. I would do da, da, da. Because I play one note. This one is tied across the middle, invisible middle of this line, of this bar. C is for common time, 4/4 time, and it's customary to use what's called split bar notation when you're writing music so that it makes it easier for people to read. I'm going to show you a breaking of that rule in just a minute. This lets us see there's 4 beats in the measure, but the second and the third beats are tied together. So I only play the first one. I don't play the second. And in musical notation, that's all you have to do. In tablature notation, sometimes we make the mistake of putting numbers under both notes. And people who are primarily reading tablature play both notes, and they miss that then, which is, sad, because they don't need to work as much. There are some tablature programs which automatically, if there's a tie, take away the one that's here. So they would play this note. I'm going to put this on the melody string. 2, 4 would be my tablature numbers for DAD, or 5, 7 in DAA. I'd play this one, I'd play that one, there'd be no tablet number here, and then I would play this. You can see this is a chord. It's got 3 notes connected with it, and because it ties into the next measure, ties can go within the measure or over the bar line, and when they do, if all of the notes are tied to each other, there's a tie, a curvy line that goes from the first note when it appears to all of the other notes in the next measure. Now, this tie came on the beat. This tie came on the beat. So this would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So, and notes of any value can be tied to each other. Sixteenths, eighths, quarters, half, whole notes. They can be tied to each other in the musical notation. And these are primarily a timing thing for us. Okay, now let's look at our next one. I'm going to open one more thing here. Hang on. And now we're going to look in this place. We're going to look at what a tie does when it goes, when that same thing, it's the same curvy line, but what happens when it goes over many different notes? Then it's called a slur. Da, da, da. Now, if I was to articulate these, like when I played trumpet, it was a T, 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 T. Ta, T, 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 T would be the way I'd read this without the slur. Ta, T, 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 T. I would use the tip of my tongue to create the sound of the note, but you notice a little difference. Ta, 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 ta. Ta and T are used in some educational processes to describe note value as well as, so that's why maybe I use D. D, 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 D. And what that's saying is one breath does that. On a dulcimer, whether it's a hammered or a mountain dulcimer, one breath doesn't make a difference. So in this case, I would take my finger or my noter and just pluck this first string and slide the rest of the way. Now it doesn't say slide, so I might keep the finger or the slide down and articulate with my pick, but I'm sliding the whole way. On a mountain dulcimer, that gives me that dulcimer kind of sound. Now, the other way a slur gets used is when it can go over a whole measure or it can go over several measures. So this one curvy line can be a tie. It can be a slur, which tells us to use one articulation and then whatever it takes smoothly to get to the rest. Or it can say this whole section is a phrase. And if you look at classical music, Beethoven and Bach and things like that, sometimes they have one that starts and it goes from the beginning of one measure all the way across another measure to partway into the next measure, then another one starts, illustrating for us that, oh, that first thing is a musical phrase. It's not just a bunch of notes piled up on top of each other. It's a phrase that the composer intended to have together. Now, as always, if you have questions, you can type them into the comment box. And scurvy lines for playing in the key of vitamin C. That's funny, Jim. Actually, if you're playing the key of vitamin C, you probably don't have the scurvy, right? It's because you've been playing all the other ones. The next use of these curvy lines is this one is broken up by a P, which means pull off. It's an articulation that is used in stringed instruments that are not a hammered dulcimer, because unless you're plucking, even if you're plucking, you can't really use a pull off, because a pull off is a twofer. You're getting two notes for the price of one. So let me stop the sharing for a minute. Come back to that, and let's change cameras. So pull-off is always going from a note that's higher to one that's lower, and it can go from 2 to 0, 1 to 0, 1.5 to 0, 3 to 0, 4 to 0, 5 to 0, but it's not simply lifting up my finger, it's pulling a little to the side after that. So if I just lift up, I hear it, but if I pull to the side a little bit, it's like both hands are doing a little of the picking that creates the tone. Because I'm using the same string, that's why this works. Works on guitars, mandolins, banjos, and things like that. It doesn't work in the hammer dulcimer, because in order for me to play the rhythm, I have to go from, because each string is tuned to a different pitch, I have to go to the different string to get the pitch. So this would be applicable for mountain dulcimer players. Now let's see. It doesn't look like my monitor was showing that you were seeing that. There, okay. Something's going freaky here. As I'll repeat the Aaron May mantra, technology is my friend. Technology is my friend. Technology is my high maintenance friend. So this articulation that is being used, and let's look at that page again. Has got a P as a designation. And it's both here in the musical notation and in the tablature so that you don't miss it. On this line, there are two other articulations besides the P. There's a hammer-on, an H, two H's, a slide, and then a pull off. So a hammer-on has to start on a lower note, and another, you pluck one and you use another finger to hammer onto something above that, and a slide. So I've hammer, hammer, slide, and the slide, what helps this happen is going from good fret play or finger position as close behind the fret as possible, so that when I start and land, I still hear the note that I'm aiming for when I get there. And then there's a pull off, like was in the other line above. Different fret numbers, but still a pull off. So in all of these examples, the curvy line is helping us with an articulation. It's telling us something's going to happen. This one tells us these go together and they're supposed to be smoothly played. It's a slur that way. And on the mountain dulcimer, I would just let my finger, rather than fingering each one of those, I'd take one finger, the side of my note, my thumb or my thumbnail or my noter, and slide down from 4 to 1. While I'm either picking with everything with my right hand or I'm just playing one. And I want to go, and this is an example of adding a fret. It doesn't sound quite the same. If this is going to be in a different tuning, but if I do the same frets, I only hear the notes in the scale. Because I had the 1.5 fret on that other instrument, it started to sound not like what was written in the music. Now, let's turn our attention to the triplet. In the next measure, you can see the curvy line. This one isn't so pronouncedly curved, but it's still a curvy line. Sometimes it's a bracket, which is very kind of military, straight, shoulders back and all that kind of stuff. It's very straight lines. But when there is a bracket or a slur that's broken or not broken with a 3 in it or below it, that's telling us this is a triplet. A triplet is a rhythmic and timing notation that tells us these are supposed to be 4/4 measures, because C, common time, is the same as 4/4. And if I count this, I can see this is a beat right here, so that's 1. This is another beat, that's 2. This is another one, that's 3. So I only have 1 beat left. And let's... So this is a triplet. These are 3/8 in the place of 2/8 notes. And that, in this situation, the curvy line is asking us to do that. Now, for some reason, I'm not able to share my file anymore. So let me do that and then see if I can get it open again. There we go. So here's the triplet. Beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. Triplet, triplet, triplet. Often triplets are accented on the first of the 3, not always. But the point is, in the space of where I'd count 1, 1 and 2 and triplet 2 and 3 and 4 and triplet 2 and 3 and 4, and they don't necessarily go fast. They just have to squeeze 3 friends into the back seat of a 2-seater coupe. So you got to get 3 in the place of 2. The final example that we have for us today is the fermata, where you have the curvy line. It's either upside down or it's looking like a smile. But the key here is it's got a dot underneath of it. This is a fermata, and what it does is have us hold whatever it is. And it's an indeterminate amount of hold. It's up to the player, or if you're playing an ensemble, it's up to the conductor. So we have in our examples here ties, which we play, but we hold it for the full note value. They're always to the same note. So if a curvy line is going from one note to the same note, whether it's in the measure or across the bar line, it's going to be a tie. It can be it can be on the beat, it can be off the beat, like this one is. If it's covering several different notes or just two, in this case, it's several. This is a slur, which says these all go together, and they are to be articulated. La, da, da, la, da, 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 la, da, 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 da. This example is one where the slur is used as a phrase marker to say, even though we stop here, da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. We don't know what the next thing is, but da 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 da. This is saying this is all one piece of music, and keep those as you're playing. Keep that thought in mind. And I sometimes use these things, these phrases, as breathing reminders because it makes the music I'm playing more musical. Then there are the curvy lines, which have a letter in the middle of them, which are articulations. They indicate that in order to play this, I could use a pick, but what this is suggesting I do is to use a pull-off because it's got a P, a hammer-on, or a slide. The other one that can show up in this kind of a the curvy line is a B for a bend. So hammer-ons can only go up, pull-offs can only go down, slides can go both directions, and bends always start somewhere. Sometimes they start bent and release to the unbent note. Sometimes they start on the unbent note and move to the bent note. Sometimes you only play the bent note. So, but B is the indicator for that. If there's a number in the curvy line, it's a triplet, which is a timing thing, which is telling us we got 3 in the place of 2. And if there's a dot underneath it, and it's either above or below, looking up like a smile with a dot in it, it's a fermata. And when we have the fermata, we hold. And let's change the camera now. So that's what the curvy lines are doing. There's a couple other ones that we're not going to talk about right now, unless you know about them. On a piano, yes. You're usually trying to, unlike the hammer dulcimer where everything's kind of slurred, right? All the notes bleed into each other. That would be, I would hold the pedal down and lift it back up. On the on the hammer dulcimer, they always sound. Unless you have dampers and you can stop it. Third notes and ninth notes. Yeah, I think that's just part of the I don't like music movement, Jim. So I'm going to add a new way to make it weird. No, actually, the reality is some people keep coming up with different ways to compose and different ways to talk about what's going on in the music. So, having a third and a ninth note doesn't actually surprise me. If you're in slip jig timing, that's just the end of the first beat and the end of the last beat of the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And in that case, it would probably be an accent, the little caret that sits over top the note. But this is for the musical notation curious. I hope it answers some questions or confirms some suspicions or reminds you of what you've said. Yeah, that's what I remember. That's what we do. That's what we do when we see that. Or it can be the, see, I told you so, but you don't have to tell anybody that you saw that. As always, your suggestions and feedback are welcome on these live streams. They're all archived here on Facebook, on our YouTube channel, and in the Dulcimer Crossing Facebook page. And they're archived in that they just show up in the way that they came. They are archived in a little bit of a curated way on Dulcimer Crossing. And members of Dulcimer Crossing who are workshop and mentor level students get access to all of the whole library of the live streams as well as the live workshops. Like last week, we had Don Petty, who was teaching us some wonderful songs from the heart from Appalachia. And only one of them had the kind of typical thing we expect from love songs from Appalachia, where there was, it wasn't the same as two people going down to the river and only one coming back, but it was a little, had that kind of a flavor from that. And yeah, the beauty of the video like this is you can ask the questions, you can watch it to get the reminder anytime. So I'm glad you're making use of that, Talon. Let's see. The archive for Don is in the Dulcimer Crossing feed right now in the workshop feed for past events, along with all of these that we did since the beginning of the pandemic, which is when I started the Wednesday live streams. On Dulcimer Crossing, we have all of the lessons that are. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot. I'm glad you reminded me. We have all of the lessons that we've had filmed for both kinds of dulcimers, and we have some new ones in the chute. But first, coming up is next month an event called, if you go to resonatordulcimer.com, and I'm hosting a Resonator Dulcimer Day. And I think what I want to do here is share the tab. Chrome tab. And this is a day of workshops on March 12th. From 9 to 7 Central Time. I'm going to be joined by Bing Futch and Chris Kennison. All three of us are slide and steel players. Chris is a well-known and much appreciated steel player in the Hawaiian Guitar Association and world. And a friend of mine from Colorado, and Bing is one of my good friends in the dulcimer world, and all of us play a little differently from each other. So what this does is bring us all together to talk about all of our different ways the ways we do this. Here we are. If you go to the page, you can poke around. What's interesting is here's a picture of Homer Ledford, who was the first one to try this idea in an instrument. And I just learned from Chris Kennison, who doesn't play dulcimer now, but he ordered one from Homer back in 1973 or 74. And we're going to have a piece of this day is going to be a builder's forum of those who are currently building, and a chance for students to share with each other in an open mic or share their ideas or questions, and we'll end with a faculty concert. And if you're not ready to sign up, you can always sign up to get the emails that remind you of what's going on. When you can sort through, there's more about the faculty. Did that work? With some videos of us playing, everybody's bio. And Aaron May is going to be our tech support. We're excited about that. And there's a whole piece on what is a dulcibro or resonator dulcimer, introduction to the builders, and the schedule. And when you are signed up for the workshop, you get access to the workshop page, which is where all the links are for everything that's going to happen on the day of the event. So that's coming up. And gotta stop sharing that. There are several other workshops and things that are happening. Some of them are happening in person. Some of them are remaining virtual, but that's what I have for us today. I look forward to seeing you next time. Oh, there is one other thing. If you are someone who likes to use your dulcimer in worship, I've been teaching um, a my evening prayer service that I wrote back in the 90s. For it's called Dulcimer Friendly Evening Prayer, and I've been teaching that through January, and in February we have been learning the Lent tunes that are in the upcoming or the forthcoming fourth. There are 3 volumes in this series: Advent, Evening Prayer, and Christmas, and the fourth one is going to be Lent. So we're working on those tunes, and then there's going to be it's on Zoom, but a play along service that happens starting on December March 2nd, which is Ash Wednesday, and on the Wednesdays of Lent, which is the 2nd of March through April 6th, we'll be playing along. And this is the link to sign up. And when you sign up, then I'll put you on the list so that you can get the the lead sheet and chords play along, so you can play chords along with the what we're doing for the service. So that's also coming up. We have 2 more weeks, tonight and next week, for working on the Lent tunes, and then we'll be moving forward after that. And this will be the second Lent that we've done this, and this has been a powerful way for us to use our instruments and also worship. If you're not somebody who does that, well, then that it's not necessary for you to attend. And that is also broadcast to my Steve Yulberg or the Owl Mountain Music Facebook page. So you could watch there if you don't feel like you want to play along in Zoom and have other people know you're there. Well, thanks, friends. I will look forward to seeing you next week with a new topic. Bye.